What's up, everybody? Welcome in Postgame Live. Ole Miss survives. That's the word we're going to use. They survived Texas A&M 38-35, the final score. An absolute thriller. Just an awesome early football game. You had turnovers. You had big plays. You had, a hell of a day from Trey Harris, wide receiver at Ole Miss. A great day from Dart. Max Johnson was tough as hell today. And just an all-around even with no rooting interest, I've got texts from people that I haven't talked to in years that are like, damn, what a game. So that's exactly what that was. A thriller in Oxford. We're here to talk about it. I know the game just ended, and I know it's in Oxford, but I figured why not fire up a post game like immediately after, because there's a lot to talk about, and we are going to talk about it together. My name, of course, is Michael Borky. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And let's get to it. So I'll give folks a little bit of time to hop in here. And, of course, comment whatever you want because you guys will drive the conversation as always. But real quick, box score house cleaning is what I call it. Just kind of running through the big picture stats, and then we'll get into your comments and react to the game together. Jackson Dart, 24 of 33, 387, 2 touchdowns, and look, Texas A&M was exactly as advertised. We spent the week on the radio show talking about it. We spent a lot of time with you guys here on the live stream talking about the challenges that Texas A&M presented Ole Miss today, and they were exactly as advertised. It's an athletic, talented, deep defensive front, and they showed that today. Ole Miss early on exploited what clearly they thought was a mismatch on the quick passing game. And then it led to big stuff over the top. And Jackson Dart reminded people he had a rough couple of weeks for his standards. With Arkansas and Vanderbilt. And he reminded everybody who he was today. Toughness, he got hit a good bit because of that really talented and explosive Texas A&M defensive front. And just made great pass after great pass. And it helps when you have a guy like Trey Harris. But Dart was really, really good today for Ole Miss. He was... He was reminding everybody who he was today. Quinshon Judkins got over the 100-yard mark today. 23 carries, 4.4 per carry, 3 touchdowns. You knew Ole Miss was going to have some kind of trouble running the football against that defensive front. Judkins ran physical and tough today. He was really difficult to bring down. Bentley only 19 yards on just 6 carries. The story of the day for Ole Miss is Trey Harris, 11 catches, 213 yards, and a touchdown. A&M tried to single cover him early in man-to-man. It didn't work. They tried to bracket cover him. It didn't work. They double covered him. It didn't work. Trey Harris, I said on Twitter, and it bears repeating, I think, that Trey Harris is going to be the next Ole Miss wide receiver that gets drafted in the second round. And then by year 2 in the NFL, everybody's going to wonder, like, what the hell? Like, how did this guy fall to the second round? Dayton Wade had 4 catches for 80 yards. Watkins, 5 for 47. Caden Prescorn had a couple of catches for 33 yards. And one of the worst holding penalties called on him that I have ever seen. Max Johnson on the other side for A&M, 305 yards, 31 to 42 passing. He was tough today. I admired his game today. He made a handful of, frankly, really bad throws, 2 of which should have been picked off on the final drive. They never should have had a chance at the end of the game to kick that last second field goal. But despite that, he was hit all game long, and he still stayed in and played well, did Max Johnson. I really respected his game today and liked what I saw. He was tough today, and I admired that, especially on the road, playing well in the second half. Did he? Daniels for A&M had 70 yards. A&M had 305 passing yards on 42 attempts, and 152 rushing yards on 36 attempts. It was not a banner day for the Ole Miss defense, especially in the second half. So I'll pull up the scoring summary here. I'll tell you what, here's the drive chart, actually. In the second half for Texas A&M, wait, hold on. There we go. Okay, sorry, I found it. They threw the interception, but it was a 70-yard drive, 12-play, 70-yard drive through the interception in Ole Miss's end zone. Went 5-play, 75 yards touchdown, 9-play, 75 yards touchdown, 12-play, 67 yards for a touchdown, and then could not score with, what is it, a minute 40 left and a pair of timeouts, and Ole Miss got the stop when they needed to. But A&M really dominated Ole Miss. A&M's offense dominated Ole Miss in the second half, but the drive of the game was the last one for the Ole Miss offense. So it was a 9-play, 75-yard drive. They get the ball. What was 6 minutes left, right? And wasn't that the case? Let's see, just to make sure. No, excuse me, 4:30 left is when Texas A&M kicked that extra point. Ole Miss got the ball back, down 4, and you probably felt like this was their last possession of the game. You had Trey Harris for a 19-yard catch. I think that was on the sidelines, if I remember correctly. Then you had the pass interference penalty when Dart got hit. Ball fluttered up in the air, but it was the right call. Judkins for 9 yards. Judkins for 9 yards. Trey Harris for 4 yards. Judkins for 1 yard. Judkins for 15 yards. Judkins for the touchdown. That was the drive of the game. The Ole Miss offense stepped up really all day. I mean, when you look at the team stats for Ole Miss, well, they had 26 first downs, were 4 of 11 on third down, which is not great, but not bad. They did get their 1 fourth down. Almost 520 total yards for the Ole Miss offense against that defense, who has been leading the SEC in basically every meaningful category. Scoring defense for A&M has been exceptional. They really get after the quarterback, as we talked about all week, and all that remained true. To have 518 yards of offense against that A&M defense is a really good day for the Ole Miss offense. So they survived. Vegas is really, 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 really good at this. What was it, like 86% of the public money was on Ole Miss, and that line didn't budge. They kept it at 3, and it's a 3-point game. The odds makers are really freaking good at their jobs, guys. They are just really, really good at their jobs. But Ole Miss survives, sets up an absolute free shot with Georgia next weekend. I mean, there's very little consequences of losing that game in the big picture. Now, it would eliminate them from playoff contention, but you get my point. You can take a free shot, an absolute free shot with Texas. Having beaten Texas A&M with Georgia next weekend, and look, take your free shot, put it all on the line, because the week after the Georgia game, it's Louisiana Monroe, so you don't have to fear of a letdown a week later. So that's the game kind of in summary. And for the next however long this keeps momentum, I'm going to read your chat, and we'll talk about the game. So glad you guys are with me. I appreciate you, and let's talk about it. I think Ole Miss should start paying for all of our anxiety medication watching these games. 10-2. Here we come. Go Rebs, says Will. Bo says Ole Miss by them. Midwest Picker says everything replay went Texas A&M's way, and they gave them so many opportunities on defense. So the Gaddy interception was not. That was the correct call. I am shocked that they turned over that long pass that wasn't a touchdown that set up a touchdown. I mean, if they'd have called it a catch on the field, it would have been fine with that standing. But when his hands were on top of the ball and the nose of the football hits the ground and then it moves as it hits the ground, you can overturn that? I don't know. I don't know about that one, but I mean, I guess it worked out for Ole Miss in the end. But still, I don't know about overturning that one. There were some ticky-tack calls. Like A&M got called for an offensive pass interference that I think I would have been fine with them not throwing the flag. There was a really cheap defensive holding call on the Ole Miss secondary on a third down stop. That was really, really cheap. I mean, the receiver essentially slipped into Saunders, and he kind of like got turned around because he slipped, and they called a holding, but that ended up ending in an interception for A&M anyway. The hold on Prieskorn was that negated that long Judkins run was seriously, and I'm not exaggerating, I'm not being hyperbolic. That was the single worst holding call I've ever seen. Seriously, you could not find me a worse holding call. You could maybe find comparable ones that are like on the same tier. You could not possibly find a worse holding call than that one right there. The crew had a really, really bad day today. There's no doubt. Gary says a win is a win. Absolutely. And look, we spent all week talking about how difficult this game was going to be. A&M was a weird matchup for this Ole Miss team. And, I mean, they really presented problems up front on the defensive line. And, I mean, look, if we're being honest, If Ole Miss doesn't get the field goal blocked in an A&M touchdown, a 10-point swing there, I mean, it's 17-0, and this game is probably not anywhere close. So, I mean, that's a bad play from Ole Miss's perspective. That's shooting yourself in the foot, getting a field goal blocked in that manner. So if they just execute there, you're probably not in this position right now. Ole Miss was the better team today. They were. The better football team won the game for sure. That doesn't always happen. I mean, sometimes freaky stuff goes on football fields, as you guys know. But today, the better team won. I think if the field goal goes through there instead of gets blocked in return for a touchdown, we're probably having a different conversation, frankly, about this game. So Lane Kiffin with the play of the game, icing the kicker. Hey, you can only do that once now. He had multiple timeouts. You're only allowed to do that once anymore. So he hey, it worked. Did that get blocked? Honestly, once that happened, I came in here to get this set up, so I didn't see the replay of whether or not the ball actually got blocked. He's a much better kicker than that. What was that, a 47-yard field goal that he missed like short and right? So did that get blocked? Because I didn't stick around to watch the replay. I came right in here to get this ready. Trey Harris gives you A.J. Brown vibes. I mean, he was absolutely beyond special today. I had a bit of a hot take on the radio show this week. We were talking about the Connerly, and I said, the obvious answer is Jackson Dart, and I get it, but Trey Harris, I think, is the best player at his position in the state of Mississippi this year. And the other two guys were like, no, you're overthinking it. Nope. No, I'm not overthinking it at all. I'm telling you, they tried to man cover him, didn't work. They tried to zone bracket cover him, didn't work. They doubled him at some points, didn't work. I mean, he made exceptionally physical catches, finesse catches. He's good in space. He's good after the catch, and his quarterback put it on him. That was a special performance. And, Ole Miss receivers have had more yards in the past, but having 213 yards against that defense is different. That's not the Mingo game against Vanderbilt 2 years ago. I'm sorry, this is just so much better in my opinion, considering the opponent. So, he was absolutely special today. Woo, what a game, no doubt. That was a really fun football game to watch. This game had all the drama of 4th and 25. The Ole Miss teams of the past lose this game. Isn't that a theme this season, Bo? I mean, that's just kind of a theme this season. Something about this team is different, you say? They have a killer instinct that we haven't seen before. That's the theme. That's why they're in the position that they're in. People have talked about, and I think they're right, that this isn't a great team. They're limited in some spots. I think they could be better on the offensive line. They've got a lot of really good pieces on the defensive line, but they don't have that like dominating guy. I think there's a lot of positions on defense where they feel like they're going to be able to upgrade over the next couple of years under Pete Golding. But man, they are great at doing things when they absolutely have to. So it's not a great team from a talent or ceiling perspective. I think that there are roster limitations compared to that of Georgia, even Alabama, and some of these teams like Ohio State, for example. I think Ole Miss's ceiling is lower than theirs, and that's okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that at all. But where they excel is at no point in the game is the game lost. I mean, to put together the drive that they did after they go down 4 late in the fourth quarter, that's mental stuff. This is a great mental team. So it's a really, really good football team. Don't get me wrong. When I say they're not great, that's not an insult. They're really, really good. They're great mental. They're great upstairs. That is where that is why they're 8-1. That is why they're going to be a heavy favorite to go back to an Access Bowl and win 10 games. The mental makeup of that football team is great. It is special. It is all of those adjectives you want to use. And this game is yet another example of that. They're supposed to be going up big. Field goal gets blocked, return for a touchdown. They come back and they score a touchdown again, but A&M scores right before the half. And then they're just running down the field on you in the second half. They're just running down the field on you. And the offense stepped up when they had struggled the last couple of weeks. And then the defense gets a stop there at the end when they absolutely have to, and they won the game. They are great upstairs is how I would describe this football team. They're really good. They've got really good quarterback play. They've got an elite level wide receiver and a pair of really good wide receivers. You know, don't get me wrong. They're really good in a lot of spots. They are great, though. Mental. Pre-scoring blocks too good. Yeah, not on that holding play. He barely I mean, the single worst holding call I've ever seen. Seriously. Thank Christ, Ole Miss's defense worst second half game came against Texas A&M. Yep, and then still there at the end, they got the stop when they had to. Should have had 2 interceptions there, but anyway. What are my thoughts on Kiffin going for 2 early in the game? I didn't hate it the way some people did. I really don't like, and I try not to, and sometimes I still do it. I really don't like criticizing or analyzing decisions based on if they work or not. And so when you moved right down the football field and then you get a penalty, so it wasn't a regular 2-point conversion. It was from the 1-yard line instead of the 2.5, right? Or the 1 1/3. You get my point. So they're from the 1-yard line instead of the 2.5. I really don't mind it there. If they get it, Lane looks like a genius. If that they didn't, he looked, like a fool. But because of the penalty, I don't mind. I really don't mind that there, even though it didn't work. And that play is usually a pretty successful one. A&M defended that really well, but the Saints, shout out to the Saints, they used to do that under Breeze a lot, that little quick screen right there on the goal line. It just didn't work that time, but I'm not going to criticize that decision in hindsight. But that they didn't get it, it definitely kind of made that game feel weird there for a little bit. But anyway, Dart is officially out of his slump when he had to be. He was really, really good today. Accurate passes. I mean, he was getting hit. He was under duress a lot because you knew he was going to be. And there was one play in particular where he threw. It was a great catch, of course, by Harris on the far sideline. But Dart got smoked, and he knew he was getting smoked because he's looking for Harris. So he sees the defender is in between Harris and him. He knows he's about to get smoked and stepped in and delivered the ball anyway, knowing that he's about to get hit and hit hard. That's the mental stuff that I'm talking about with him and with that team. That was why he was so special today. I mean, he placed accurate footballs and he hung tough despite a really physical defense. So, other than a last-second field goal, Ole Miss has figured out how to win in almost every possible scenario thus far. That's a really good point, actually. I mean, they've had to do it with offense. They've had to do it with defense. They've had to do it by scoring at will for 4 quarters. That they've had to do it. I mean, yeah, absolutely. Your hair's officially, I lost you. There you are. Your hair's officially gray. We should have put it away in the first half. You say, yeah, they should have. They absolutely should have, and they didn't, but they should have for sure, and they won anyway. In the last 3 years, Ole Miss is 7-2 against A&M, LSU, and Auburn. How about that? That was Jimbo's last time to play Ole Miss at A&M, possibly. Although the talk, at least this week, anyway. Sounded like the A&M people were not exactly keen on making that change. I mean, Ross Dellinger reported that the estimated buyout is not, remember, it's not just Jimbo. It's his entire staff. Then you have, I mean, are they going to go hire a coordinator? Hell no. So they're going to have to pay the buyout of whatever other coach that they hire. You're talking about a monetary investment going into next season of, I mean, possibly $125 million. And even a place like A&M. And the economy being what it is right now, which is kind of a goofy thing to talk about on a sports platform. But guys, I mean, that's a real thing when you're talking about that volume of money, when you're asking those same people to pay for the players now as well. They're not, you're not just asking your boosters to pay buyouts anymore. You're asking them to pay for your players too. So you're asking them to pay for this uber expensive roster. And now you're going to ask them for that much money with economic uncertainty on the horizon. I don't know. I mean, there were A&M people talking this week as if it's not exactly a foregone conclusion that they move on from Jimbo. So I think that they're going to end up doing it, but I'm not quite sure that cements it, but either way. Absolutely massive. I mean, that was huge for so many levels. I mean, if they are able to take care of business, forget the Georgia game. Just pretend they lose that game. I mean, beating Louisiana Monroe, and then winning the Egg Bowl and going back to an Access Bowl for your second 10-win regular season in program history, and both of those coming in the last 3 years, would be validation for Lane Kiffin. It would be validation for the program as well. It would be proof of concept, is the phrase that I used on a podcast this week. That it would be proof of concept for Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss, and the investment and how they're acquiring talent and the collective and all that. It would be an all-encompassing thing. But yes, floor elevating is what it would be. Officials awful? Yeah, no doubt. Come down to Ocean Springs and get some tater nut donuts. It's the Peter Anderson Festival. Man, I'd love to. I would absolutely love to. I had the chance, or I was offered the chance to go to the Texas A&M game. The Saints game tomorrow, but I had to turn it down. I've got something that I've got to do tomorrow. So I would. I've recommended people to stay in Ocean Springs and then drive to the Saints game because I love it there so much. You and I talked about that before. I love it down there. You're exhausted after watching that game. Love you, Bork. I love you too, man. I appreciate you. The refs do not like contact. No, they did not. A&M is a good one. Absolutely it is. It absolutely is. I mean, this was the kind of game, as we talked about all week, that you just win. That you just win. That's it. And however you do it, you're thankful for it, you're happy about it, and you move on. I mean, it's really that simple with a game like this. You just win and be happy about it and satisfied with the win against this kind of roster and the spot that you were in, and the way things got weird there on you for a little while. Yeah, you just be happy about it. Does Ole Miss have any power to challenge to officiating? I feel like the officials have been a topic of conversation every week. I assume that they're going to cut up some things and send it to the league office, but I mean, there are people, I got a text about it. It was like, when does Keith Carter step up and do something? And what the SEC should do, and it's not a permanent fix by any stretch of the imagination, but what the SEC should do, because they have enough money, is to make the officials full-time employees. That's what they should do. Again, it wouldn't solve everything, but instead of spending the week at their finance office in Birmingham or wherever these guys are, they're working on it. They're practicing. They're at practices and honing their craft. And I mean, you can use the same guys for football and basketball too, I would assume. Maybe that's a little bit more difficult, but at least have some full-time crews where this is what they do. I think there's too much money on the line. It's too big now to just have dudes with day jobs trying to figure this out as fast as the game is, because it's so fast. I mean, if you've never stood at field level, it's so impossibly fast, and having to get everything right is an impossible thing to ask these guys to do. So I think that they should take some money and invest in full-time crews. Does that fix everything? No, but that would be something that if I were at these meetings, I would be talking about is, hey, look, it's a problem. Everybody talks about how it's a problem. It's not getting any better. In fact, it's possibly getting worse because the game is getting faster. The players are getting bigger and stronger and faster every year. And something needs to be done because there's too much on the line for it to be this bad. It's too much on the line. So kick did get tipped. Okay, good to know. Good to know. Because it didn't look right considering how good A&M's kicker is. So please, LSU beat Alabama. That one gets a little spicy tonight now, doesn't it? It does. Clutch team? Yes. That is, yep. In different ways, different people at different times. Yeah. The O-line played the game of their life against that defense. Yes, they played really well. And, that's weird to say because Dart still got hit a lot. And, there were some TFLs in there and they only ran for 4 4 yards per carry is all that they ran for. But yes, I agree with you. That was a really good performance from the Ole Miss offensive line, considering what they are, frankly. I hate to put it that way, but it's reality. And what they were up against. So that was a really good day for them as well. Assuming that Ole Miss doesn't lay an egg against Louisiana Monroe, they have a perfect record at home. Lane Kiffin has been exceptional in Vaught-Hemingway Stadium. And exceptional. Say hi, Scotty, just so I know we are connected. Hi, Scotty. What's up, man? What's up? You've learned today that you don't like watching football. You like knowing the final score, then watching football. That's the beauty of 11 a.m. games, though, isn't it? That's the beauty of them is now for the rest of the day, you can pour yourself a drink. You can watch Missouri, Georgia. Bedlam's going on right now. I mean, you've got Alabama, LSU tonight. You've got Mississippi State. If you're a sicko, you want to watch Mississippi State play Kentucky like I'm going to have to tonight. That'll be on my big TV. God bless me. But, yeah, you get to win. You get to pour yourself a drink, and then you just get to hang out for the rest of the day. You get to hang out happy as well. Has someone inspected Harris's gloves for glue dots? He's like the guy from The Replacements. Coach, never mind. I probably shouldn't say that, even though this is not an FCC-regulated thing. Good movie, though. Orlando Jones went to my high school. He is, I think, the most famous alum from my high school. That goes to show what Malden is all about. Anyway, is the Georgia game Ole Miss's biggest opportunity in modern history? Oh, no doubt. No, I think so. I mean, the Arkansas 4th and 25, right? I mean, going to the SEC championship, they need help to get to the SEC championship this year. They don't control their own destiny, but I still think a win here to set up being an 11-1 team from the SEC West. It's just hard to envision the playoff leaving out 11-1 Ole Miss with a win over Georgia at Georgia, should they get it, with their only loss being a close one in Tuscaloosa. So, yeah, and it's an absolute free shot. They can play in this game. There's no pressure. There's absolutely no pressure on. They'll probably still feel it, but I don't think there's an ounce of pressure on Ole Miss on next Saturday. I really don't. I mean, it is just as relaxed and as free as they could or they should be as relaxed and as free as they could possibly play next weekend. It really should just be a game where they put it all on the line and see what happens, you know? What do I think? Ole Miss had trouble getting to the quarterback. Only one sack, you think? You hit him a bunch, but couldn't get a sack through nearly 4 quarters. Yeah, A&M's offensive line played well today, despite that being part of their weakness, as we talked about going into the game. I mean, they should have had a bunch of sacks. I think Ole Miss stopped bringing additional pressure. And A&M also kept some guys in the box to help with that as well. It wasn't the best day for Ole Miss's defense. I thought that they were having so much success bringing extra bodies, and they kind of went away from that and then got conservative on the edges at some points in the second half as well. And then when they dialed up pressure on the final possession, look at how often they got to Johnson. But Johnson did a good job of getting the ball out. That's part of it for sure. And their offensive front had a good day. Did Ole Miss really only have that one sack late on the last drive? Yes, and they had about a dozen almost sacks. Poor Max Johnson. I mean, like I said at the beginning, I just admired his toughness today. I really I gained, for whatever it's worth to him, which is nothing. I gained a lot of respect for him with the way he toughed it out today, because he was getting his ass kicked all day long and just was still getting the ball off in time most of the time. And yeah, but the 2 turnovers, the difference. It was just 1 turnover, right? I guess turnover on downs counts as 1. But yeah. Yeah, and A&M fumbled twice. Those would have been game changers had the ball bounced a different way, but they didn't. So, did I see Jimbo's interaction with Max Johnson after he threw the pick? Yes, I did. They got a little heated there, didn't it? A couple of times on the sideline, there was a little bit of passion there between the two of them. If Georgia gets up today for Missouri, I wonder if they have it in them to get up emotionally for 2 games back to back. Luckily for them, it is at home. I mean, that does help. And I mean, Ole Miss had to play a physical, kind of emotional game today as well. Probably a wash there, but it looks like they've got their hands full. They're up 3 in the first quarter. Maybe they run away with it, but I will definitely be watching when we're done here. So, yeah. Hopefully, Rebel Nation travels well to Athens. A lot of Georgia in the Ole Miss alumni base. So, yeah, you would hope so for sure. What exactly is the scenario necessary to get Ole Miss into the SEC championship game this season and LSU win tonight? And what else? So I think we looked at it, and it comes down to the record of Ole Miss's East opponents versus Alabama and LSU's East opponents, because every other tiebreaker is they will all have a win against the other, same record against the rest of the West, and it's like the 7th one, and it would still favor LSU, thanks in part to Missouri being their East opponent, and Ole Miss would be the only team to have played Vanderbilt. So I think it'll still come down to LSU, unless you get some dramatic changes on the record of their East opponents. You need Vanderbilt to win. You need Vanderbilt to beat Auburn today, for example. I mean, that would help some, but I think that's what it is. So, frankly, I've thought about this a lot. I can't help but wonder if you would rather Alabama just win out and you beat Georgia and you be an 11-1 SEC West team done playing, as opposed to having to beat Georgia twice and go to the SEC championship game. I think that you might have a better chance at getting in the playoff having to only beat Georgia one time and asking for help elsewhere than to beat Georgia, get the help that you need elsewhere, right? With these teams losing and all the tiebreakers and stuff, and then beating Georgia again. I think it would be better, just thinking out loud, if you just went 11-1. Alabama went to the SEC championship. They win, so Alabama's in. Winner of Ohio State and Michigan is in. And then you get, Texas and Oklahoma. One of them's got to beat each other. I mean, did Texas survive Kansas State today? See, this is why I don't like doing post-game lives, is other stuff is happening, and I missed it all. But I do think you have a better chance at chaos elsewhere at 11-1 than you do beating Georgia twice, if that makes sense. Chaos in college football almost always happens. So I think you would have a better chance at that. So Arkansas beat Florida today. Wow, I missed the ending of that. See, I'm talking to you guys. I'm just wasting my day away. How dare I? Texas did beat Kansas State in overtime. That's a shame. That would have, I think, helped Ole Miss's cause. But anyway, call you crazy, but you wouldn't bet against this team. You like like Ole Miss's chances next weekend. I'm going to have a hard time with that this weekend, because I got to see what Georgia looks like for the next 3 quarters. That's when I'll have a better gauge of what I think about this game. But yes, counting this team out is a stupid endeavor. I mean, they've proven that time and time again this year. Counting them out at various spots has been a really stupid thing to do, because they just keep responding and they keep winning in different ways. And they really got humbled in Tuscaloosa, and a week later played their best offensive football anyway and had a great fourth quarter defensively and beat LSU. I mean, they are very resilient, and they should be very relaxed next Saturday. So anyway, thank you guys so much. I'm going to go back, watch some more football, because I'm going to go back and watch some more football, but appreciate you. Please like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, if you're watching after, leave some comments. Comments help me as well. So like and comment as well if you're watching even after the live is over. I'll see you guys tomorrow night, 7:45, roughly 7:45, for just a weekend recap live stream. I'll see you then. You guys have a great rest of your Saturday. Ole Miss fans, enjoy your win, and I'll talk to you in about 27 and a half hours or so. See you then.